And to remember, within each one, there's a centerpiece, that vortex that we speak of, that is the singular. And that singular is the stillness. You hear that expression all the time, where in the eye of the storm, in the eye of the hurricane, there is this fundamental, like, harmony. Smooth serenade of the shakuhachi, echoing in your very essence, rippling out to your reality. Welcome to the consciousness of the way, my divine, delectable co-host, High Priestess Jade.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. What a beautiful day it is.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely divine, as if it was made that way.
It was magically created.
Magically created. And I'm your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master San Quinn. Well, what an interesting response that we got here when we just recently released a little offering, which we don't really do that often outside of,
The
the app itself. But we released a experience, which was received quite well. It's very hard not to, because it's literally, if you hit play, you will be affected. Whew. And what a doozy that is. That is like, if you want a crash course in how to pop out of your physical, energetic body, your spirit body, well, you need to check out our Welcome to the 5D Reality, or more commonly known as Astroplane Traveling. It's the last one that we put out on this channel here, and the title might change, but you'll find it. And, I've been doing this over 30 years in the energy, frequency, vibration category, and I just release the frequencies, and you will be affected.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was received with some incredible eye-opening response due to the fact that it is really quite profound. A true definition of first person, third person, no person.
Yeah, very powerful.
Very, very powerful. And it's dosed enough that even novice beginners will basically replicate, simulate, because they'll connect with the frequency. I get that started immediately. So at the beginning of the video, don't be shocked feeling the build-up immediately, because I've already started the frequency. So you connect with that, and by the time I go through the description of the dimensions, getting you a deeper understanding, then we go through the actual experience, and it's not called Rocket Man for no reason.
Fly to the moon.
Fly, fly, fly away. And in any case, you will be realized in the first person, third person, no person. And, a synchronicity, synergy, rippling effect from that experience, that signature energy, frequency, vibration will be replicated for you, and you will find that you are now in a whole new reality. And moreover, you might want to give yourself 24, 48, 72 hours after you do it, because it is so fundamentally, altering. As you understand, everything is symbols, numbers, letters. They're all integrated deep within your DNA. So when you take an experience like the 5D experience that we put out yesterday, it will fundamentally rock you. And I always give people caution, make sure you are aware and familiar. It's for your experience only. But if you are not sure, go and find yourself a professional that can validate whether you should do it or not. With that caveat, it's for you to experience at your own admission and enjoy, joy, because that's exactly what happens. And so you will just fundamentally get a shift where you're experiencing this, shifting from first to third to no. And that's something else. It is fundamentally, you will pop out. You will literally pop out. Well, yeah, literally, yeah, you will pop out.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of fun, lots of synergy. But this is part of what we do when we prime your nervous system, get you to understand. We go on and on and on about the energy, frequency, vibration, and how we integrate that into the Way 126. It's a visual, audible experience creating a kinesthetic charge. That is the validator, the go time for you. You're synchronizing your 50 trillion cells within your body, creating that 0.07 millihertz frequency, millivolt of electricity that is then basically in concert being commanded with your attention, intention, and you're moving that energy around. It's oscillating, it's reverberating, it is translating and vibrating into pure magic. And your would be you equals pour in a cup kind of experience, simulation.
Mind melting.
Yeah, kind of mind melting. Yeah, it is mind melting. It's not kind of mind melting then. Which brings me to more over a deeper understanding of these mechanisms. We're talking about respiration, how, it's key for us. And when we use Qigong, you move energy with your breath. It's such a powerful ancient practice for us to move that energy. So whatever direction you go in, you saturate it with the breath itself, because the Qi is, the living force, the essence of everything, which is everywhere. Which brings me to a much deeper model of understanding when we talk about the quantum, and we talk about how everything is interconnected, from right down to a photon all the way up to a cell. You have, these minute to massive interconnections of the black hole, which is this abundant, timeless, endless, limitless, infinite amount of energy that is flowing. And so you perceive this as distance between myself and the camera, when in actuality there is no such thing, And so I was speaking on this with a follower on social media, and he wanted to understand what all is one, one is all. And we talk about that, the universe, you are the universe is you, you are the field is you. Some people refer to it as the matrix, the quantum, the Buddha, God, universe, Tao. That's all part and parcel. That means everything is completely synchronized to this oscillation. That's how it works. Everything is oscillating all the time. The energy is never stagnant. It's dynamic. And so people talk about, well, manifesting is quite simple. Yeah, it is when you hit the peak of the wave. You don't hit the lowest part, you hit the highest part, because you want your manifestation, your magic, your healing to be equal to or greater than the experience. And that's how you acquire instantaneous results, because everything is moving faster than a light. If we were moving at light speed, it would be clunker. It'd be like comparing Fred Flintstone and his little, stone sort of like car that he uses his feet on to roll around in, versus the Jetsons and their spaceship. If you know the difference between the two animation, cartoons from when I was a kid, and they probably replicated out to this day and age. But in any case, you need to understand that there are interworkings, and that respiration is as powerful as your attention intention, where we're coupling these magnificent pairings, moving energy with your mind, moving energy with your breath. And that's why you come across the 5D experience that we put out yesterday, and you're like, holy moly, who needs drugs? And this really gets down to, understanding this, and moreover what we're talking about today, which is the alchemical response and the inner working of how some people lean towards external forces they need to internalize, or moreover, Jade and I tend to promote internal forces that you can externalize. That means that you have the ability, you have the power, you have the skill. Once you master it, you're able to affect the chemical change, which, if you were one podcast back, we did exactly that, where we were able to replicate this incredible synergy of energy from these respiratory practices, exercises, cultivations, and we were as high as a kite.
Mm-hmm.
And we may very well go back there today, because it's fun till Daddy take a T-bird away. But moreover is understanding that you have the ability to harness these 50,000 or 50 trillion cells. And now within that, each cell, there is 50 trillion atoms. I mean, we just keep going. And remember, within each one, there's a centerpiece, that vortex that we speak of, that is the singular. And that singular is the stillness. You hear that expression all the time, where in the eye of the storm, in the eye of the hurricane, there is this fundamental, harmony. You look at something as vicious and ferocious as a tornado, and inside that tornado is stillness, absolute quiet. And this is something that they're now replicating. Most recently, peer-reviewed science within quantum physics, where it is quite clear that the rippling effect of this plasma, the Planck field, the quantum, the matrix, the universe, that is the interconnection that we speak of, the gravity is generated by how the Planck field has micro compartmentalized different layers. And you're like, what? Hang on, you said all is one is all, Sifu. Okay, let me make it clear. You have the field. And when we mention the Planck field, ladies and gentlemen and ladies, it's after Max Planck, who was a peer of Albert Einstein's back in the day, and he was a guy that was researching, light bulbs and the interconnection between light bulbs, and he wanted to basically, they're like, right now we have LED bulbs, right? Mm-hmm. And before it was like not phosphorus, but there was another name for it. They're
Just like a regular light
yeah, a
bulb.
regular light bulb, but it was a specific type of harnessed energy that was being generated by using this. Anyway, through his exploration of that, he came across the quantum. So him and Albert Einstein are splitting hairs. And, it depends on whose camp you're in. If you want to use it all, sometimes I just use what I want to use. I use the Planck field because I like the way I say it. Planck, Planck. But does it mean that it is any less or more value than quantum physics, quantum mechanics, which is moreover understanding that bending, which E equals mc squared, the definition of what Albert Einstein was speaking of, that he could the relativity in of itself within quantum physics was the understanding of this bending of reality, and it was actually how objects were moving within this field that we speak of that is all interconnected, that we're feeling it. And if you go, the field is here, and you start doing this, you're like, oh, I can feel this palpable sort of like dense energy because it's all interconnected. And so, you can lean on things like what they call psychokinesis, right? And so that is more fundamentally lent upon, magicians or psychologists, but it goes into an inner working or understanding, this psychokinesis, where you are connecting with someone else's energy field. Now, most of these guys, unfortunately, do not believe this stuff, and they tend to mimic it through illusion or sleight of hand rather than actually doing it, which Jade and I can do, and so can you, and so can anyone, and that has been more evident right now than any other time in history. That is absolutely valid, that that's what's taking place. So what I'm saying is, from here, I can interconnect our auras, which we're already interconnected, but it's just a matter of saying so. And then I can have Jade close her eyes, and I can scratch my nose, and she will think that I've scratched her nose. What? And now, this is a not really a phenomenon, but even going more over into what we call idiomotor rippling effects that a lot of these mentalists stroke illusionists use. But again, once again, this is now another form of reading within the field because you have instant access to the information. Now, a lot of these guys want to dismiss it and go, it's just a psychological trick. Okay, if I can show you that it is present, then it is real, but they believe it's just nothing more than just some psychological trick. Because if you say it, then I'm going to believe it because that's how it works. It's not as simple as that, even though a lot of these mentalists, illusionists, magicians tend to lean more on that, and they kind of fall deeper into this thing where they like to manipulate people with hypnosis. But again, hypnosis is a trance. We're all in a trance. How do you think you shift into another level of consciousness? You are dipping deeper into this Planck field that we're talking about and accessing light, information, and energy. Duh.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's like the concept of like voodoo dolls
Right.
and stuff, except they
Right.
they put that energy into, the little doll,
Yeah.
and then, I
Yeah.
mean, it's
But
not
that's
it's not
like-
used for good, but
yeah,
but
but I mean, that's very real.
it's very
That's like-
real.
it's like-
It's
and
very
that's
real,
why
and
it-
that's been around for
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
of
Go to New
years.
Orleans and talk about that shit, and I promise you, they'll be like, "Ooh, X-nay."
Yeah, and it is very real. It's connecting with that field or connecting with that person's energy or whatever you want to call it, spirit body, and it's like,
Right.
we
Energetic body.
energetic
yeah,
body,
Yeah.
and we use it to help and heal people,
Right,
but
right.
it's been around
Right,
for a
right.
while.
So this goes back to the model that we speak on when we draw the bagua within our hand, and we remind you that we replicate the anatomy of the human body, the anatomy of the universe, or whatever object that we're looking at. We can replicate that within the palm of our hand, and then you draw the grid and you have the bagua, and then you're infusing and pulling down the energy from whatever source you want to draw it from, spirit, energy, frequency. And so then it's infused into that particular architecture of the incantation, of the mudra, of the hand seal. And that is now a detailed, intricate form of magic, which infused is, again, another form that people might be more familiar with, a mudra, an affirmation, an incantation, a hand seal. You know, I mean, everyone sort of like goes, oh, it's a little picture of Kuan Yin holding her fingers like this, and then, oh my goodness, well, this is so benign and so harmonious and so motherly. It's a hand seal, ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen and ladies. It's a mudra, ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen and ladies. It is, what it's doing is capturing the energy flow through their physical body, and in the case of Kuan Yin, she is immortalized, so she's using this hand seal to generate an energy that would go, and what is that? What is that? That's that particular hand seal is direct energy flow. It's the heart channel. So that energy goes directly to your heart. Mm-hmm. And of course, moreover, if you're seeing symbolic images of Kuan Yin, where she is very representative, she is the gatekeeper of all things maternal, all things fertile, all things yin-like in this cosmos, which for Taoists, that is a incredible entry point for the yin energy, for the fertility, for the maternal really sort of rapture that comes with that particular sort of like essence, energy, frequency, vibration. And so she has a very unique relationship with Earth, a unique relationship with the moon, a unique relationship with the synergy of the Earth energy, which is an earth element, and then the yin energy, which is also a water element. You have the integration of the two. And so when you see her doing that, oh, that's so sweet. Can I buy one of those at a souvenir store of Kuan Yin? But, if you see Guangong holding his hands like this, and he's got this fierce, fiery red beard, and he's holding a sword or some other thing, then this is scary. What's going on here? Again, you have to understand these are all sort of like deeper levels of integrating into the field and getting immediate access to light, information, and energy. And as Jade was talking about, this would, the capturing of that psychokinesis aspect where you're integrating into someone else's aura, that is very tangible, very real. That's been measured. It's been measured for thousands of years for Taoists. But let's be quite clear. In the last 30 years, there's been quite a few nonprofit organizations that have done greater research into the electromagnetic field that is transmitted from the physical body, that is integrated into everything, because everything is light, information, and energy. Moreover, energy, frequency, vibration. And so all these things are integrated into the experience. Now, this particular organization is measuring the frequency, the packets of information that's being transmitted from the heart itself, and from that information that ripples out into the aura that we speak of, that is, again, another subsection. And I don't want to say subsection because that would infer that it's separate. Let me just say, imagine the field. It's like plasma. So everything is integrated. So, like we talk about it, bring your attention to my hands, you start to feel the energy, right? Instantaneously, because everything, right down to a photon, which is beyond your naked eye, a subatomic particle has the black hole energy within it. This vortex, this singular that we speak of, that is so deep and integrated into this spiraling effect, this beautiful, calm in the storm, description. So you have this sort of like plasma that we're moving in. I've referred to it as like this big, ball of super glue that encapsulates everything and envelops everything. Mm-hmm. We could call it the plasma is like enveloping everything.
Yeah.
So it's integrated. So this is how it works, right? So psychokinesis is the idea that you're using your mind, and this would then be referred to another thing that, hermetic principles, more on the Egyptian side, because that's about the closest thing I'm going to parallel to anything Taoist, because that would in turn within a timeline that historians are speaking of, even though I speak well before that, because having direct information from, Yellow Emperor, the Three Pure Ones, Lao Tzu, this was taking place another 6,000 years before the documented ones that they claim are present today. So let's talk about the Hermetic principle is mentalism. The reason they use mentalism today in illusionist sort of like practices, i.e. Magic per se, like David Blaine, Darren Brown, Banachek, Colin Cloud, these are all incredible, what we call mentalists. Now, what people need to understand is there's a certain degree that these guys have encapsulating the integration of these energies. I can see quite clearly that Darren Brown and David Blaine are using high levels of clairsenses that they're not just relying on the illusion of, or the idea of, they actually believe it. They know it to be true, and when they do use these systems and they integrate into it, Darren Brown's a classic one. So Darren Brown, I see him do this a lot. You can access your unconscious, and so this is how they justify this stuff. They go, look, there's just the conscious and unconscious. It's on paper. It's not like it's some magical thing. This is the human being. Understand this, guys. Even to this day, I could take a neuroscientist, someone who would be more renowned, like a Huberman. What's his name? Anthony Huberman? Andrew Huberman, who's got a reputation for, being a little biohacking neuroscientist type of guy. He's got a bunch of great little insights into things, but he will look me in the face and tell me that you cannot experience the feeling of a third eye because it doesn't exist, and there's nothing there behind this point here in your brain that would make it generate any type of sensation of feeling. So, i.e., he's talking about the neural network, the neural synergy, or the what we would call sympathetic or parasympathetic innervated being the nerves related to the brain. There's nothing there. You're not going to feel it. Yet, we know very well there are 50 trillion cells in your body that have 0.07 millivolts of electricity. When you harness them as a Taoist, when we harness them, when we train in it, we're able to direct that energy any way you want. You can feel anything and everything, and that sensory perception starts getting heightened as you level your consciousness, right? So Darren Brown would go, look, conscious and unconscious. And so there's a way to access your unconscious very quickly. And when we talk about how information is instantaneous, energy is instantaneous, healing is instantaneous, magic is instantaneous, manifestation is instantaneous, we're not lying. And so how you can get a great grasp of your sensory perception, and what most people would refer to it as ESP, extra sensory perception, is when Darren Brown, if you ever watch anything that he does, he accesses his unconscious because he's not I guarantee you he's far more in his head. I can see this by how he processes it, but then again, he leans a lot on the ability of raising his consciousness to do some of the feats that he has done as a mentalist, as an illusionist, that it's not all just smoke and mirrors. There are levels and heightened levels of consciousness that he's able to replicate these things. So let's put it this way, and it's all energetics, but a lot of these guys go, yeah, it's, it's just part of just being human. And I love the fact that people just accept it like that, but they also dismiss then anything past what they know that they've book read as being realized. So they read in a book, a psychologist's book, you can do this, but anything past that is just a figment of your imagination. Sorry. If you are in psychology, if you are in physiology, you are limited, you are thinking, you are not knowing. That is my opinion, that is my realization, that is my knowing. I will show you a level of consciousness that supersedes anything that your wildest imagination could ever create. And that's the whole point of the power of being human, using this neurology as an eternal immortal, as a sinking anchor within this realm, so that you can experience and realize this incredible magnitude of energy that is this field that we speak of. So getting back to what Darren Brown would do is, imagine he wants to access his unconscious, and you've seen him do it many times. So what happens is, when you look at something, the first message you get is the right one. What, Sifu? What? I don't care what you think about in your mind. Look at something. Look at somebody. Think about a place, person, or thing, and just go, I want to learn something. Give me a piece of information. This is how interconnected you are with the field, that you are the field. The first answer that you get is the right answer. And what happens is, human beings are introspective, analytical, cynical in their nature, fear-based, fight or flight. And so I give you this practical application, and the first thing you're going to do is dismiss the first answer you get. Whether we're looking at a color, whether we're looking at an image or a person, because this is sort of like clairvoyance 101. This is how you start. This is the baseline. That, this perception and peripheral perception is how a lot of people will manipulate you, right? So mentalists use this all the time. They know psychologically they can feed a piece of information to you from your peripheral that goes straight into your unconscious because there's a gap, right? So what does that mean, Steve? What do you mean? I'm saying if you're emotional, you're suggestible. So if we can distract your conscious mind, we can inject something into your unconscious mind, right? So now we have...
It's like the thought process of like the person bumps into you and hits you, and then the other person snatches your wallet.
Right.
And then it's that kind of distraction where you're like, I'm looking over here, but it's really happening over here.
Right. And so when you're reading information, like a lot of these guys do, now you're going, okay, the rippling effect. So let's just call them micro to macro waves of plasma. We're not going to compartmentalize them. They're waves of plasma. So the light, information, and energy is moving all the time, and we're all interconnected. It's all one. And so how do you do psychokinesis? It's like Jade and I are interconnected right now. So creating that sensory perception is a matter of just a little bit of awareness. Then I can move my hand out here, and she can feel it over there, right? Or let's try this. I'm not going to try it. I'm going to do it. So I want you to close your eyes. I want you to put your hands on here, right? Okay. So you're just going to close your eyes, and I'm going to connect with this, what we call ideomotor response, which is psychokinesis, which is the ability to connect the two fields, the aura. We're interconnected, right? And so if I just do this and then I start like moving my hand up, Actually, I shouldn't have said that. That was bad. Let me just connect the energy. Now, what you're going to do, Jade, is just respond to me moving whatever the energy is, however you feel it, and replicate it yourself. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not going to motion you to what it is. You're just going to respond to the energy. Right? So first I'm going to just start to amplify the energy, right? And then I'm going to move, and you're just going to replicate what you feel is the response. And this is the unconscious working. Interesting. Now, when you look at that, this is her responding. Now, what was it you felt with your eyes closed?
I felt my left hand super, super heavy.
Right. And it was motioning you to move?
Yeah, it just felt like a lot of energy
Okay.
running through
So
my left arm.
let's do this again. One more time. Interesting. Now, just stay with that and then respond to it as I move my hand, you respond to it. And relax. Now, that's an interesting, ideomotor response, or more known as psychokinesis. Now, you could go with neurocoupling, opposites attract, but what happens is when you're doing this consciously or unconsciously, and moreover, she's removing a sense, so she's still feeling it, right? So I'm able to move my hand. Now, I'm not putting any real intention into it, yet she is responding with a physical response. From me moving my hand to her moving her hand, it's almost equal to, and it just changed because she's creating a sensory perception, thinking about one arm to another. What is a deeper, understanding of that? Now, again, you guys are need to realize you have access to the information instantly. And, this was an example of Jade starting to feel the sensory perception was getting heightened, and she was starting to notice, a response. And, that just happened with her own volition. There was no indicator other than the pulling and the feeling of energy. And, both times there was a response on each arm, even though I was using one. Now, I could relate that to the fact I was looking at one hand over the other, and I wasn't really directing my intention to anything specifically to her. So she was just picking up a feeling of a movement.
It's funny because one felt really heavy and then one felt really light. And it was like, okay, do I go with more?
Right.
Do I go with more of this feels like really light energy, or this feels like really dense?
Right.
Both are energy.
Right.
It's just different frequencies of it. So it's like which one am I listening more to, tapped into more?
And you, this is a training that you get to in understanding and feeling these sensory perceptions that happen really fast. Now, this is another sense altogether. And so her just feeling that out was the beginning of some real magic. And you guys can do that at home. And so you can play this sort of like a mirroring image, because it really is a mirroring image. You're using your mirror neurons from one person to another, and you're replicating the feeling. And so she's removing a sense by removing her eyes and starting to feel it. Now, when you get down to it, you get really good. So like I was saying back to Darren Brown, at a practice. Now, I've never really focused on this type of practice. The main things that I practice in are just full body experiences, healings, physical healings, manifestations, things of that nature. Like anything, you just train in the sense that you want to develop, and you will become masterful at it. There is no exception. So, it's like when she let everything go and was able to just take the information, she got the color immediately. Mm-hmm. And then instantly, just by going into that interconnection, just by moving my arm, she was able to respond physically, feeling that there was an arm movement. I mean, I could have moved my leg for all she knows. And she responded to what she was feeling compelling within her energy, right? So, Darren Brown does this type of stuff where he can pull out the number, he'll put a bowl of rice out, a big bowl of rice, and he'll literally put his hand into the rice, pull it out, and then he'll do something to distract his conscious, whether he'll slap himself across the face or whatever. And then the unconscious is the true gateway to, high levels of consciousness. You want to bridge that gap. You want your unconscious to be your conscious. You want to bridge that gap, that level of fifth dimensional reality. And when you do that, he'd come out and he'd say 27 beads of rice. And you're like, whoa. And then he'd open his hand and he'd start canting out, and it would be 27 beads of rice, because this is how he's accessing the information. Mm-hmm. And he feels that's the easiest way to do it, is to distract his conscious, which is really just him opening up the gateway to the unconscious, which is his conscious. It's pure information. He's not, let's make it very clear. What he's doing is really accessing direct source. Does that make sense? And that's how he gets it there. But for someone like him, he'll go, it's just a conscious, unconscious thing. That's not a big deal.
Yeah, no, he's really channeling.
Yeah, he's really channeling. And, when it comes to other things, I channel information directly. I don't need to sit there and slap myself in the face. And
that's a training.
It is a training. And like the healing is a training, manifestation is a training, magic is a training. For me, I've never really been so compelled with, sort of certain, clairvoyant senses that don't really have any excitement to me. Like, I don't get excited by, bending spoons or generating heat to burn paper, or, it really doesn't compel me. And people are like, yeah, sure, why? That's superhuman. Yeah, it is. It's not something that it just doesn't excite me. I don't get compelled by it. I teach people martial form, internal martial arts, but it's not my go-to excitement. My go-to excitement is to sit down with the three pure ones right now and have a direct communication with direct source right here, right now. Now that excites me. But all these skills, these extrasensory perceptions, are developed by you and can be instantaneously. Mm-hmm. And it all comes back to your neurology. Right? And so a lot of these guys just think that, it's all just old hat, psychological, hypnosis, linguistics, manipulation. Again, what do we talk about? What's integrated that's been validated over the last 20 years? Everything is a number, a letter, a symbol integrated deep within the DNA, the inner workings of your very essence. That's been validated for the last 20 years. That is a fact. And even that, I don't want to say it's a fact. I know it's a fact well before 20 years ago. I know it's a fact that's been a fact for 10,000 years. Yet, we can say this little thing, this communicative new language that we're not aware of, physics. You right? Doing some water? Or? So the physics is kind of like the building block. But, we use that as inner workings.
It's kind of like superheroes. like each superhero has their specialty that they specialize in, whether it's like, oh, I could look at you and heal you instantly, or I'm connected with the water, I can make the water do anything
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want.
yeah, yeah.
Or, I can make anything burn, I'm fire, you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
It's kind of like those things. It's all of them are super. They just specialize in something that excites them, or they've trained in it over and over and over again and mastered it.
Right,
And everyone is basically a superhero.
right.
You just train in something that you
Yeah,
go, ooh, I really like, telling people exactly what they're thinking. That's where I'm training in my thing, and that's my kind of
yeah,
specialty.
yeah, yeah. And so you guys need to like take your time and go through this stuff and create the inner working, your relationship of what excites you, what you want to create sensory perception of. You know, I can promise you, anyone that experienced my 5D reality yesterday had no problems resonating with the very essence of all the energy, frequency, vibration that I drew into the space instantaneously. That's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah. It's like my oldest son, he loves video games. So he loves to like play against like the computer or something. He loves to manifest like, I'm going to roll a 6, or I'm going to roll a 4, or I need to roll a certain number to move a certain space to get what I want. And like, I watch him do it and he does it all the time. But like that right now, that's where his mind is.
Right.
So it's like, that's his thing. That's where he's just shooting that energy out to.
Instantaneously.
Yeah, that's valuable to him.
Right.
Whereas like my daughter's an artist, she uses it for her creativity, or art, or drawing, and feeling the stroke and creating these masterful art pieces. For him, that's not as valuable. For her, that's,
Right, right. And it all has to resonate with you, that signature, that ebb and flow, right? So what's critical is realizing that you can access that information at will, and whatever you decide is valuable to you, start training in it.
Yeah.
Start realizing it. Start making it tangible to you. And it just comes with practice.
Yep.
And that's where the neurology is so critical, and how you resonate with that and percolate that and cultivate that and oscillate that. And then you have this visual audible experience creating the kinesthetic response, the validator, the go time that lets you know you're in the 5D reality that is affected change for manifestation, magic, and healing instantaneously.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. And so when you look at the inner workings, you understand there are layers. There are layers of, access. Access can be instantaneous in so many different ways, whether it's, working on a small, macro plasma level, or a micro plasma level, knowing that you can concentrate and isolate light, information, and energy at any point, creating the cluster that we call flesh and blood, the information, the energy that is in front of us, that's happening right here, right now.
Yeah, and I think it is really important too, just going through that exercise and being like, where are you really getting your information from?
Right.
Are you really in your head? Are you really
Right.
out of your head?
Right.
And how easily are you tapping in and out of that?
Yeah.
And that will give you a lot of insight into where your baseline is to start leveling up that consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah. Critical. And how you see things.
Right. Or
Right.
hear things, or
Right.
feel things.
Right. So that major effect is realized by the individual, depending upon what you're looking at, what you're gravitating to, and understanding that sensory perception, the limit of it, is up to you and your imagination. So where do you start? Where do you end? And that is realized by you. but it all starts with the neurology. It all starts with the energy, frequency, vibration.
Yeah. And of course, you know, a good way for that is to do the app.
Mm-hmm.
And use that as your practice. Use that as your opening to get you started.
And that is right. That she makes a very good point, is understanding that, you know, you need to have a regulatory sort of like baseline
System.
for your neurology. And that lies within a system just like the Way 126 that gives you the ability to access it at will.
And that's why we created it. We created it is because people, you know, your definition of being still is different to my definition of what my information I'm getting. My information I'm getting is totally different to yours. So you need a system that works on the human neurology, which we all have, unless you're an alien, that can give it to you so that you do get that result every time, and you go, and that just validates it with the feeling and continues on.
1,000%. More and more. Even more.
Mm-hmm.
So realizing that mechanism is very, very tangible. And so how you access it, what you do with it, is up to you. You can tailor that dashboard to whatever you want, however you want, and refine it. You know, if you want to understand something or generate an energy around or a focus around something where you want more information, you start with a baseline. Look at an object, and then whatever information you get for it, write it down. Then you can start feeling the tangibility of that energy,
Mm-hmm.
and then start writing that down.
Right.
And then refine it. Like, I've never been one for, you know, the semantics of stuff. I like to get to the big picture of things and realize much bigger than some tiny little intricacies. And some people really enjoy the intricate parts. They want to, you know, put their attention to moving a flywheel by, you know, energy coming from their body, which I guess, is it useful? In my opinion, no. But, you know, some people want to know that they can realize that. Mm-hmm. That is a level of consciousness. It's absolutely powerful, but I don't gravitate to it. It doesn't excite me by any stretch of the imagination. So when you are looking at things like this type of response where you're layering it in, connecting with people's auras, it's really important for you to understand how that takes effect, because you are at one with everything. The only way that becomes tangible is by that realization. Once you've seen it, you cannot unsee it. Mm-mm. It's as simple as that.
No, not at all. And it is. It's something that you have to pick that you really like. You know, people really gravitate towards like plants, and it's like they just know what the plant needs. They tap into it. They get the information. They figure it out. You know, and it's you're gonna have to figure out
what you gravitate to.
Yeah, what you gravitate to, and really that just comes down to your imagination. And the cool thing with us is, because we've seen so many different things, when we look at something that's like a miracle or magic, or even just like mentalism, or like someone doing a trick, whether it's an illusion or not, it's always real, because we've experienced so many different things, whether it's like spirits or healings or transformations, that we know anything is possible. So it's never, nothing is ever just like a trick or like a coincidence or a luck. Mm-hmm. It's always magic, and like real magic, and like anything, whatever you can think of, is 100% possible.
Mm-hmm.
It is there, you know.
Well, it's like looking at all the physical healings, all the spiritual awakenings, all that kind of stuff. That's very easy for me to tap into and to realize in this 3D reality. That's things that excite me, the energetic component of that. Whereas, things that are more microscopic, myopic in their nature, it doesn't get me all excited inside, moving energy to spin a spin wheel or moving an object across a table. Okay, how does that help? I don't know, and that's my personality. I'm like, okay, well, it doesn't have any tremendous effect on humanity or leveling consciousness to a whole nother way of processing this reality. But some people, and most people that get involved with martial arts, want to see that. They're more in what they can do internally and then cultivating their own energy. It's not so much a collective thing. Yeah. But understanding that is kind of exciting.
Yeah. And realizing that anything is really possible.
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything and everything. So when you come to that mindset of wanting to find something out, you start with a baseline. You can look at an object and whatever comes first thing to your mind. Now, that was the separator in the consciousness thing today is, Jade was defeating her own access by constantly thinking about it instead of just receiving, knowing it. And that's a critical component to getting the information correct. And then, as you level up to your own consciousness, you can put in, it just, with your own realization, you can start to hear, not just like visualize, what is right or what is wrong. You can actually have a very clear audio validator.
Yeah. And I think too, that's kind of why like kids will say like whatever is on their mind without a filter sometimes. Is they'll just, it's like, it's in here and they're not thinking and they just spit it out like, oh, you look fat today. And you're like, what? But it's like they do. Kids are so kind of tapped into those brainwaves and stuff that they're kind of operating that they sometimes you'll notice they'll just say whatever the first thing they get,
Right. And that's an interesting place to be.
Yeah.
Access. Yeah, so really, today is talking about, extrasensory perception, understanding the inner workings of the field, the instant access to that, and then that realization, and then how quickly you can the amplitude of the energy increases, and, how some people perceive it as, superhuman. Some people just think it's some type of trick, and then there's that realization that you are leveling up your consciousness, and that comes in the form of magic, healing, manifestation. Now we're talking about the real deal.
Yeah.
That inner working, and that's what makes it magical.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we love sharing all these different skills, and it's endless, really. The amount of material and information is all to help you level your perspective, your consciousness, your awareness, your opening, whatever clicks.
And realize that anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're only limited by you.
Right.
And that starts with understanding the dynamics of that interconnection. So if you start from the understanding that everything is entangled in of itself, the quantum model, and what Albert Einstein reflected on almost over 100 years ago, is that exact realization. Well, almost 100 years ago. I think it was 1930, 40. We know this as all is one, one is all. That's critical. Critical. And that's where you get a tremendous insight into the inner workings of the field, the plasma, the macroplasma, microplasma that is the linking of all these energies that make it realized when you can access and create manifestation, healing, and magic instantaneously. And that comes all the way down from a photon all the way up to a cell. We have trillions of cells, trillions of atoms within those cells, all of them holding the 0.07 millivolts of electricity that, when generated and focused on, and you are able to put your attention, intention to wherever you want, profound things start taking place. You become a conductor of that electromagnetic energy, or energy per se. That's what it is. Electricity.
Self-charging.
Yeah, putting a whole different definition on so many other things.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to refine your sensory perception, extrasensory perception, then you need to create those details. They're kind of like really important.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that getting back to the comment where one of our subscribers was just like, can you please give me some more depth into the all is one, one is all,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of that removing of duality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's a big one that
yeah.
it can people limit themselves by that.
Right. And that's why we always talk about that register of that kinesthetic charge, that electromagnetic charge. That's the validator to know where you are. And then it evokes the brain waves. And the brain waves are altered by the emotional state that you're in, which can be coherent or incoherent depending upon what state that is. And knowing when you're emotional and you're suggestible. When you're suggestible, all of a sudden your access to your unconscious, creating the conscious and unconscious process, becomes realized. That is critical. Then all bets are off. And that's when you become one. You create that 5D reality where you're able to access things at a whole nother level. And so people just don't quantify it because they can't touch it. That's why the energy is so critical. The feeling is critical. The feeling is the only thing that is the differentiator that determines whether you are there or not.
Yeah. And I think that's also, we do get a lot of people too who've don't necessarily want to do the work or the practice. They want, we spoke a little bit on this earlier. They want to take the illicit drugs to kind of I need to feel it. I want to get that feeling. I'm not interested. I want something to make me feel that way versus make myself feel that way. Right. And that can, we always talk about mindset, what you believe in. Right. And that can be a little bit difficult because you're kind of still in this duality mindset, yet it's transferring over into this feeling of all these, out-of-body experiences, and you bring that mindset with you. So if, for example, if you're afraid of demons or the devil or that type of thing in your mindset, and then all of a sudden you kind of jump on this roller coaster to outer space, that mindset and duality comes with you. So you're bringing in those types of energies in this duality by not kind of shifting that first or accepting that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where, they have these incredible, I had an out-of-body experience. And it's not necessarily always good though, depending on
Well, it depends. I mean,
It depends on
using
your, again,
well
it all
again,
comes back to your belief
right,
system.
right, and that belief system will open or close the doors to certain things. But realize everything is energy, frequency, vibration. Everything is instantaneous. There is a spirit to everything. There's an infinite amount of spirits, infinite amount of energy that is taking place. So if you believe in heaven and hell, that will be created. That will be your realized reality. And so I think what's good is I'm going to give you an example of an exercise we're going to do right now. I'm just going to connect both our upper dantian and middle dantian, and now all I'm going to do with the audience at home is now start to breathe in and out, very shallow breathing in and out through the upper dantian, middle dantian. You could call it the heart and the brain, moreover the third eye. And I'm just going to breathe shallow. And all you have to do is start mimicking that. Like, watch my pace. Yeah. And as you notice, and you can watch my pace, and then you connect in with that at home.
Maybe you should say it for anyone who's like listening.
And so you're now experiencing this sort of elated, sort of dopamine response. And the alchemical response that you're receiving, that you're getting from sinking into my pace, is now starting to replicate oxytocin, nitric oxide, and now you're feeling real good and real sedated. And now I'm going to take a deep breath in. Now instantly you're sunk into that. Now just stay in that pace. And this is how I normally put my kids to sleep at night. If they're up too late, I'll sync with their energy, their respiration, and you use the mirror neurons because everything is interconnected. And then you hijack their respiration and you put them to sleep as you mimic that feel-good feeling that you're getting right now. And now if the audience wants to keep their eyes open or closed, it's like this intense amount of dense energy in the heart, in the brain. Now, all you have to do is either eyes open or closed. You don't have to do anything. I'm going to respirate now, which will ripple and affect in your field, in your experience, because you're already sunk with me. You're synchronized. So you watch what happens when I do this. Another one. I'm going to do another one. You don't have to do anything. And I'll do one more. Now I'm going to just dough it up, roll it up a little bit. There we go. Then I'm going to just infuse it deep into both your brain and your heart. Wow. Now, for the audience and Jade, if you have your eyes open or closed, whatever it is, now with that incredible chemical response that you're getting, I want you to smile. Another one. Yeah, just. And now you're in that dopey place you were a couple of days ago with our last podcast. And while you're smiling, I'm going to inhale, exhale again. Woo! A little bit more. Now I'm going to start laughing, and you watch what happens to you. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Oh, that's right. Oh my goodness. And expand. That's right. That's it. Stay with it. There you go. And then with your eyes closed, you can open the palms of your hands. And then you can sort of move your hands back and forth and feel that pulsating density. There we go. That's you creating that, you generating that. It's all yours. There you go. And then you can smile again. Completely infectious. It's like this seed that weighs you down with the density of this feel good joy and bliss that comes with it. Oh, yeah. And at your own pace, you can recalibrate your senses and open your eyes to the room, or not at all. Just listen to my voice. And so this is a deeper understanding of how you're able to create this chemistry, these chemicals that people take externally that you have within you. And you have the ability to create them at will. Now, this is the stuff that makes me feel good, draws my attention, that I focus on and can access instantaneously. Whew.
Feels real good.
It feels real good. And that's instantaneous. My goodness, there's a lot of energy in here.
There is.
So I think we went over a lot. We kind of went all over the place, but not really. We kind of stayed within the field, understanding the intricacies of the field, knowing how it's interconnected in macro and micro cycles of the plasma. That is the field, that is the Planck field, that is the Tao, that is the universe, the quantum. And my goodness, I'm like that amber, just with every breath. If you notice, just sort of like through your mouth, just sort of like you're like super sensitive, and it like just builds energy, because that's what it is. You are moving energy with your breath. The chi is very dense and present. Feels sedated, elated,
Amazing.
related. Well, with that said, I look to my divine, delectable co-host with any closing comments or thoughts or words to share with the audience.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We said I'm I'm in it so much, I'm not thinking. I'm just feeling. Feels great.
Feels amazing.
And this is, again, this is all everything that you can do within yourself. A little bit of practice, a little bit of tips and techniques, but you have everything within you.
It's all yours.
Mm-hmm.
And with that said, I want to thank my co-host, High Priestess Jade.
Yes, thank you.
And I'm kind of feeling a little super sedated. So I don't need anything else to even ride on this wave. And with that said, I'm your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master San Quinn. And I will see you on the next one, guys.